You alright, Mary?
Yeah.
Still recovered?
It's a good time, Mark. It's a good time.
Oh, well, no, you know, you were sort of, the last time I was a bit better now.
Get back to the time. I do not.
Well, you look a bit better, you've got a bit of colour to see, whereas the last time it was just that sort of grey, is that the right word, you know what I mean?
Well, you tell that with me. I'm not back.
It's been a couple of months since I don't know when the date of the last meeting was, sometime in the middle of July. We look better, definitely look better than the last time I saw it.
Good evening all, I'd like to welcome you to the Finance and General Purposes meeting of Stanley Town Council for the 12th of September 2018. Start off with item 1, election of the chair.
Can I say that as Vice Chair I suggested you share it tonight and it goes to full council and we make an appointment of chair at full council.
Any other comments?
Yeah.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
That's a motion.
So we have a motion to defer the appointment of a chair until full council?
Yeah.
Item 2, apologies for absence.
Yes, Chair, we have apologies from Councillor Kane, who's unwell, Councillor Timby, who has work commitments, Councillor Clark, who has work commitments, Councillor Christie, who has work commitments, Councillor Marsh, who has work commitments, and Councillor Palace, who is, I believe, on holiday. Other than that, we're all here.
Councillor Carl Marshall being sent to replace the leader of Stanley Newcastle at the North Transport meeting in Sheffield, so it's away in it.
Right.
Got some rail business from the northeast.
Item 3, do we have any declarations of interest? Item 4, procedural and appropriate announcements from the chair. I'd just like to start off welcoming Gordon Biddy to the Town Council. Look forward to working with you and hopefully we can get some good work done in the future. Hope you enjoy yourself.
I'm sure I will.
Alan?
Just the usual ones, Chairman. Obviously, we are recording the meeting this evening. Is anyone else present recording the meeting? No? And could everyone please make sure their phones are set to silent or switched off, please, before we start?
Item 6, confirmation of minutes. To approve as correct record for the minutes of the 18th of July 2018. Oh, sorry, I've totally jumped ahead. Public participation. Do you have any public questions sent in? Or?
I have one question in writing, Chairman. It's from Billy Nixon, who asks, could the council tell me why, considering the size of the Anfield Plain ward and compared to the Craighead ward, why has Anfield Plain only been allocated one set of trees lit up, but Craighead has 2 areas allocated? I think this is referring to our report on Christmas lighting later on in the agenda. I also feel that siting an AP is an area where there will be a small part of the public would see them. I would suggest Old Durham Road leading to Tesco, where there's a row of trees, or New Front Street, which runs down from the community centre towards Catchgate, both on the main bus route through Anfield Plain. I would just suggest that we take that into account when we're considering the item.
Yeah, I can liaise with Billy about that if you wish, his questions. Because it's not just about areas, it's about logistics and power sources and all sorts. So I can speak with him if council wish me to.
Any comments?
I'll move it. He gets an appropriate response, but we haven't discussed it yet. It'll be discussed later on in this meeting. I've got no reason why I shouldn't be informed of that decision. But it's not open for debate, that's a question done.
But if it's being discussed later, after the meeting,
No, I'm sorry, Chairman, that's not the way councils work.
Well,
And Council Bell knows, members of the public do not take part in the agenda. They can put a question, we answer the question, and that's as far as it goes. And it will be discussed then. And
It deems an appropriate answer.
That's what
That's
David
what I'm
said.
saying.
We've
He
got a-
can
we've
get
got a comment.
appropriate an
I'm
answer.
going to stop you there before we start arguing. David's reply was that we would talk about it later in the agenda, because it's in the
That's right,
agenda,
and then give them an
and then give
answer.
him an answer. That's
That's
Yes.
what I said.
That's what he
That's
said.
They're not
what it
listening.
said to me.
That is how he said it, yeah.
I thought it was to go to full council.
No.
No.
Do you have any other questions?
No. Unless there's any from the floor.
Any from the floor? No? Now we're on to the confirmation of minutes, to approve the minutes from the 18th of July Finance and Governance Committee.
I will do it. We accept it. One second.
Yes, Mark.
Those agreed? Anyone got any issues on this?
I have just one point I'd like to make. If you remember at the last meeting, we had agreed that we would bring in that gentleman from the county council to discuss the Stanley plan and bring the relevant
Yes.
people in there. And I did not notice that, put anything on it as an update on what's happening with this, on this thing. I was just
In
wondering what's happening.
Item, the last item on the agenda, I think
The decision was, it was resolved the town clerk should write to Ian Thompson at DCC and request the county council work with STC to bring together key stakeholders in the community to examine the effect of the plan proposed in the area of detail.
So what Paul is saying is there isn't an update on attachment O for that. There's nothing.
Right, okay, it's missed off the outstanding actions.
Yeah, it's missed off the
Yeah,
outstanding
yeah,
actions.
okay. I'll make a note. Otherwise, no problems with the
No
issues?
problems.
Agreed?
No, sir.
So just to make sure.
Initials on
Yeah,
there.
the last one.
Yeah. Full signature and date, 12th of July.
Item 7, accounts for payment and bank reconciliation for July 18.
I think we should just move there more. Is it correct, record?
Chair, just advise, we've got the bank rec for July here, the bank rec for August has been done, but it'll go onto the full council papers. It's because of the, the recess.
Do we have a second over?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would second that. I mean, we're still getting the report in a format that doesn't make it very easy to follow where money's being spent and how we're looking at specific projects. Obviously the Civic Hall is one case in particular, and the first meeting of that subgroup for the Civic Hall is tomorrow. So one thing I'm going to happen straight away, we need to get the finances so everybody can understand and everybody can read it and everybody knows where the money's going. So hopefully from that meeting tomorrow, that will move that forward. In the meantime, when you look at the bank balances and everything like that, they look the same as they always do. I've got no questions individually on the report.
We all agree with approval of the bank payments and records?
Yeah, you know, the bank reconciliation approves the payments, yeah.
Is that agreed? Any questions? Bank rec? Payments? No, silent? Okay.
Item 8, budget monitor report. Nothing. There's no action on the one.
No. The purpose of this report is to give some sort of more detailed analysis of the year-to-date spend and start a year-end projection, so we can start to look at whether or not we are going to be on target with our expenditure or whether we are looking at underspend or overspend, which is normal financial planning at this time of year, especially seeing as we're going on to look at next year's budgets. The report covers the impact of our restructuring on salaries and the impact of next year's pay deal in some detail, so that you can quantify that now, because obviously that's got to go in the budget. Everything else is movable, but that needs to go in. And then there are just some notes there which explain variances throughout the rest of the budget. Hopefully, if you look at attachment K, you can then sort of read through the report and see the areas that I've highlighted. And wasn't going to read the whole report out unless members want to obviously visit areas and discuss it in more detail. The only recommendation I've put on the report is that we need to set aside the amount we need to set aside for our salaries to reflect our structure in the pay award. Obviously everything else will be the result of the budget setting process that you're about to begin. And obviously I'm touching on to the draft budget, but on the same document attachment K, what I've done is I've pulled together a starting point for the budget which uses the estimates that DCC have given us mid-year for the tax base and the revenue support grant, and looks to just roll forward what we're delivering in the current year, so that we have a starting point for members. So we've got a balanced budget that we can work back from to look at what needs to go in and what needs to come out.
Obviously, during the next few months we're going to revisit the medium-term plan because it needs to be updated. It's on the agenda tonight. It shows the actions that we've taken in the last 12 months, and what we need to do is get that plan updated, and that will reflect in the budget, so that over the next few months leading up to December, when we'll have a firm budget set. So this is the interim report of how we're going forward as a council. I'll move we accept the monitoring report.
Everyone agreed?
Are there any questions about any particular aspects of it from anyone? Any clarifications? Or did the report make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah? Good. That's the first. Okay.
On the same item 9.
Yeah, item 9, well, I kind of outlined, it's the same, you're looking at the same document here, which has got last year's expenditure, this year's year-to-date, first projections, and that sort of starting point budget that I've drafted to start working on. Essentially, I'm not asking members to do anything with it other than note it and use it as a starting point when we start looking at drawing up next year's plan.
Any questions?
Just agreed with
Happy
what
to say it? Item 10, review of the medium-term plan.
Right, well now we're getting to the meat of it. The attachment L, which you've all got, is basically last year's agreed plan on the left half of the table with the green headers, and then on the right half of the table, I've given an update on the status of the project, some comments and information, and just suggesting who should lead on it going forward. Obviously, we've not started everything on there because it was a 3-year plan, but we've actually completed quite a few of the things, quite a few of the bigger things. And so this again it's really to inform members about what we've done, what we haven't done, what we've started, and it's to help members with setting the budget and setting the plan for next year, and how members want to go about that discussion. Because obviously in previous years we used to have 2 committees, and the different committees would put forward bids for projects, and then full council would put them away until we decided what we were going to do. Obviously we're not doing that this year. We've got the medium-term plan. So all we need to do is basically tick off the things that we've done and then add on the things that we want to see in it for next year. So hopefully a more straightforward process.
I think it's a good help on how we've done it in the past. I think with this plan you can see what we've done, and it's amazing when you look back on the last few months of how much has been achieved, and particularly with the amount of staff we've had in place, and now that new structures coming in which allow us to take things forward. It could be that people that get appointed in the post might have a comment, in fact any staff might have a comment on what they feel is important to them in carrying out their functions. And I mean all staff in the civic hall should perhaps have a copy of this, so they can see and make comments. We're not alone in our ideas of what should happen, and people that's working there deserve to be listened to. So I'm hoping that they will get this and make some comments fairly soon, and if members have things that want added to that plan, well, that's fine, we'll listen to that. But once again, it's a starting point, and as we go forward, if there's things that we want to change now, ready, because this has got to, the budget's got to reflect what's in this medium-term plan. If it doesn't, it won't work. So, thank the clerk for his report on the medium-term and the timelines, and that will just roll on and develop some more as we bring other things forward.
Any other comments or anything?
Are we going to, sorry Chairman, are we going to sort of have any discussion about how we want to develop that conversation in terms of updating the plan?
So, as I said, as a start, I think you need to talk to the staff, or the staff need to have a copy of this to be able to feed this in through you, so I wouldn't propose that any councillors meet with the staff and talk to them about what they want. But, I'm sure Nicola and James and everything, people that from the City Hall will have some ideas of what they see important in the coming year and the next 2 years as it rolls on. So let's get that information and we'll fit in our information on that, and we'll have some kind of meeting with yourself where we go through that and further.
So we'll organise a brainstorming session with the staff. And,
Yeah, but I'll leave that to you.
Yeah.
Move on to item 11, the Festival Light Working Group. James, do you want
We've all received a report. Just in brief, you're all aware that we've now come to the end of the 3-year contract we had with the seasonal group on our winter lighting scheme. A working group was set up to look at new options or talk about past options. We looked at mainly costs, what the most effective cost really on how we can deliver this. It is an expensive exercise. It always does pose problems and it always lands on my head. So it's not an easy task. But we did look at a few different options. In short, we looked at the feedback that we got from the lights we had up over the last 3 years, and by far the best response from the public was the lighting of the trees outside the front of the Civic and the Louisa Centre. That's just the feedback we obviously had from the public. It's something they liked, and they said it was great. There was loads of comments all over Facebook. So we, obviously looked at a few other options, but we thought this would perhaps be the best option to look at because it is cost effective. That's basically what we've highlighted different areas to be looked at. Obviously, logistically, it has to have power supplies, be near lampposts. I don't want to start going into all the different things that are needed to light up a tree, but there are a lot of considerations. And obviously, we looked at areas so that the report does say it all. So I imagine you've had a read of it. The only thing I would point out is obviously, the budget that's been highlighted for Christmas lights this year would fall short. However, if you were to look at doing it over a 4-5 year period, I mean, I've put just an indicative idea of cost in there until I speak and get proper quotations. I won't be able to give you that exact figure. But if you were to spread it out over what we've kind of proposed as a working group, you're probably looking at just over £10,000 a year. which is considerably less than the 20-odd thousands we're spending every year with a company doing it for us for over a period of time of 3 years. And motifs on the lamppost, the wraps are kind of old hat now that were on the lamppost. They're a bit past their time. We had a lot of negative comments about them. The decorations we had down the front street, they look good, uniform, the blue and white ones. There was a few teething problems in the first year of the contract. But that's the situation we're at. Really just to discuss it and see what the committee feel, what the working group have suggested.
Any comments on the lights?
What criteria did you use to choose the locations and the numbers?
Yeah, I went in, me personally as an officer, I went out and looked at the areas. I have to try to take into consideration what we spent, and this is without speaking to contractors, what we spent on lighting up tree areas. Obviously I've tried to use the ones out there as a bit of a template. When you're lighting up a tree, if, for example, you light up one tree, believe it or not, it might cost more than lighting up 4 or 5 trees, because it's dependent on size, dependent on how much like beading you use to put into the trees, and I tried to get a bit of an even split throughout the different wards. I looked at the Craghead ward, hasn't really had much at all, even as well as South Moor hasn't had anything because it's got wooden lampposts, so that poses difficulty. So for example, South Moor, the only place we could put lights would be at the Ox Hill crossroads, because there's a metal, is it metal steel, I don't know what they use for lampposts these days, you have to get a feed off them. And that is of course if county let us do these feeds as well. Without going through, I mean I can go through each individual one if you want. I just tried to spread it out on where it would look good. Obviously I've concentrated a little bit on the front street as well, because you know we're going to be having, I imagine, a Christmas fair and a market or whatever it is, it gets decided. It was just ones that had good visual impact. I looked at, for example, Tanfields. I was looking at to start off with the, I don't know what you call it, the crescent, the semicircle type of place, because I wanted to try and do, there's if you look at it, there's 4 or 5 bushes around there. But speaking with 2 different contractors, I haven't asked them to quote us yet, and one of them obviously knows the area well because they've been doing the tender for 3 years. Said you can't do that, it's too close to housing. So then looking round a place like Tanfield is hard, so I then looked up, you know, where the barber shop is, up there. Vast amount of trees there, but would probably cost in the region of about £25,000 to light those trees up. And if you light just the one tree up, it's going to look silly. So I had a good scout around the area and found a really big tree that would light up opposite the club. Is it the club? I don't know what the name of the club is. People going to Christmas parties at the club would come out there. People coming out of the community centre down the road could look up and they'd sit up there. The old folks would see it. There was reasons for choosing the different areas, but you know these are the areas I put forward. I mean, if committee want to highlight other ones, and I suppose they could be investigated. But they tried to get an even split across the Stanley.
Let me have a word over there as well. It wasn't James alone that went out over there. We went out with the person who's normally does the contracts for the front trees in front of the in front of the civic hall, and between all of us, we have. What's the matter?
Nothing? Outlet?
Okay.
Back on.
It's just that there has to be some decorum. One of these. You've asked for a question, and between James and myself, we're trying to answer it. There is no need for this kind of stuff. Okay. Now, what I'm saying is, we went out with the contractor.
Excuse me, Councillor Ed. Can we please direct all the comments to the chairman, please, rather than across the table at each other?
Sorry, Chair. It is just that the gentleman over there is making faces at me, and it's not appropriate in a meeting. Okay. That's why I asked him what was wrong, and he said he was biting his lip. Okay?
We'll leave that issue there, and just carry on with your answer, please, brother.
So what we're saying is we had a look with the contractor and we looked at a variety of trees, both in the front street and the different places that James was highlighting. And the contractor explained to us as well as possible which one of those trees to choose. We went to several options in each one of the wards to try and find appropriate trees and appropriate sites. And the sites that James has pointed out over there, both by the contractor and from consensual decision making, were the right trees, the right places to put it up into. And that's why James has offered those as a suggestion. It will be difficult, especially with the logistics of the electricity supply, etc., to choose many other options other than the ones that James has put in over there. So I would recommend that we had a look at that and decided that James's options, along with the contractor's advice, is about the best decision that we can make, unless there are alternatives that any other councillor can sort of suggest to us.
Christine?
I have a problem, and it's not my ward, so I shouldn't really be saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Tanfield Ward has 4 villages, so it means that it's just going to be in one village. You know, and that's, you come through, and you go through Tanfield Lane, you've got Tantoby, you've got Whiteley Hedge, you've got Sleepy Valley, you've got Tanfield Village. It's a huge expanse, you know, and for one lot of people to see them doesn't seem right. That's just my opinion.
That's what sorry, Chair. Obviously, I've been trying to look at wards as well, not just the villages, because, you know, we could go and spend £4,000-5,000 in actual Tanfield Village, because let's be honest, Tanfield Village would look absolutely wonderful with that green lit up. But it would probably cost more than 4 or 5. It would probably cost 6-7 grand. You know, we have to try and think. We've got to try and think. It's not just about which village here or which village there. To try and get a bit of an even split round Stanley into the wards. It'd be lovely to like a Ferry Village. That does seem, you know. Also, it's worth noting though what you know this scheme. It is liked by the public. We know that the lighting of trees. The fee, yeah, okay. But this could be added to every year, you know. This.
Yeah, I was going to make the same point, Councillor Bell. I mean, when we initially lit up the trees outside the Civic Hall here, and everyone liked them,
They love them.
and then you know we added the walk through to the Louisa the following year.
Yeah.
This is looking about, you know, what we're seeking really here is the approval from council to move away from lighting column wraps and lighting column placard things that look like something you get at Blackpool illuminations, and move towards a different approach, which is the lighting of live trees across the patch. So, you know, with the budget that we've got, it's going to be unachievable to light up everywhere. I think that it is something that can be added to over time, so that we could actually end up in year 1 we'll have selected sites, and then by year 5 we'll have the whole place lit up. I think that's kind of what the philosophy has been.
That's it exactly. We only had so much money to play with. There will be a bit of an investor saving to get what we put in, suggesting now. But we looked at all sorts of things. We looked at having coloured lights instead of just the white ones. There was complications with that. We also suggested that where the lights are, because they're in prominent positions, that we look to the future, and it's not for this year, but we get, you know, the tubs that's on the roundabout, try and get some more tubs where the festive lights are, put a tub with it so it gets flowers on during the summer, and then in the winter eventually light it up and have a reindeer with it, so when people are going through Stanley they see these tubs, but it'll look like a sled. So that's, we talked about all sorts of things. It wasn't just the lights.
It's a scheme that can be added.
We only had a limited budget, and we came up with the idea, right, we'll start here and then expand it as we go forward. So that's what we're thinking.
Chair?
And we as councillors add to what you are doing with our own funding.
It would. I'd love to say yes, and I would like to think that was in my head for the future as well, because if it does go down well, which I think it will, just because of the feedback we've had, I would like councillors to think that they can do that in the future. This year it might be difficult because obviously I've got to go away to county now and start liaising with them if council agree that we do this, because there's lots of ins and outs first, power supplies, health and safety and whatnot. If I suddenly start adding extras, but I mean I suppose maybe over the next 2 or 3 weeks it might be able to be.
Time is getting tight now. We need to kind of agree what we're going to deliver and
but
get it done.
that's exactly what I want to kind
and
of.
I think for future years, I mean, obviously, you know, you as ward members know your areas better than we do. You know, if there's locations that you feel would be suitable for this type of project, then you need to feed them in so that we can get them ready and assessed and costed for future years to go into the.
Just for example, when you're driving on the road from Anfield Plain up to Greencroft, we identified there's a grassed area, there's just one huge, great big tree, and the contractor looked at me and he said, "That's the tree you want to light up." But then, in terms of giving sort of Anfield Plain and Catchgate stuff as well, do you see what I mean? We sort of had to say no, but for future, you might want to look at something like that because it'd be like a giant one we have down the front street. Do you see what I mean? It's a bit like Ox Hill when you go past the traffic lights there and you're heading out towards the bus stop. On the right hand side, just past before your house, there's copse of trees all the way along. But in the future, if someone's driving into Stanley and they see these all lined up when they're coming in, they're going to feel, wow, you know, people are safe.
And it is about those main corridors and entrances and exits.
But we've got to start somewhere, and that's all that we're trying to do at the minute. But
I mean, everyone knows that, you know, when you drive through Lanchester at Christmas time, Lanchester Village Green is all lit up and it looks fabulous. You know, that's kind of what the effect we're going for. But we've got to start somewhere. And so if we're going to start anywhere, it's going to be the town centre, Chester Road, and the road between Ox Hill and Anfield Plain, isn't it? It's, you know,
just one other consideration as well. Sorry, Chair. David mentioned coloured lights. Coloured lights is something that's quite traditional, different coloured lights, and we thought, you know, we could explore that. Only problem is, you can only put them on at Christmas because it doesn't. You know, that's what you know. That's typical Christmas time. Whereas that's why we call it a winter light scheme, because if there is something big that comes to Stanley or something happens in Stanley, then we can flick the switches and do something. You know,
light up Stanley.
Light up Stanley, yeah.
And by that I mean everywhere.
Yeah.
The Stanley town council area.
Do you have any other comments?
Can I just ask a question about, has anyone thought about solar lights which do exactly the same?
And the same brightness.
Yep. We've been looking at them, it's an Italian company. Can't off the top of my head think the name of the company. I thought I might have had it written down somewhere, but there is a solar panel company, and kind of solves.
Yeah, I can only say what I've been told about solar lights, and that's through contractors and DCC, is that you can't, they're not reliable. That's all I've been told. I'm just saying what I've been told. That's not my knowledge, or that's what I've been told. And if the ones that you're talking about there, I'm thinking they're a fairly sophisticated solar thing, which is probably quite a big investment, is it?
It's slightly more expensive.
Yeah.
From my experience, when I was down south, Loudon Town Council, which was our neighbouring town council, went for solar powered lights on their lamp columns, and you know, I'm glad that we decided to invest in proper electrically powered ones, because their ones weren't bright, they weren't very visible, they didn't look impressive. You know, if you think that they looked worse than the wraps that we have, and the wraps that we have weren't fantastic. You know, I mean, it's worth giving some consideration to, but it's not. I don't think it's a replacement, particularly when you think how dark Stanley is at night. You know, we're you know, with the exception of the front street, and you know, our villages are not lit up like big towns. They're quite dark at night, even with street lighting. So you want them to be seen. You don't want them to be dull, and we're not famous for getting lots of sunlight either, are we? In the winter months.
And I don't understand the technicalities of solar now, but it's different to what it was apparently. The panels are different. I don't
It still
understand.
relies on sun.
Apparently it relies on light. It's like solar sun.
Yeah,
Apparently.
but
I don't
bright light.
understand it, but they looked really good, the ones that.
Chairman, can I try and make some progress on this? I'll move that for this year, to accept the report, give James permission to go ahead and develop it, if at all possible, because we'll run out of time between now and Christmas. If anybody wants to switch off the lights for Christmas, we'll just vote against it now.
We have a seconder for the motion.
Second.
All those for the motion? Any against? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
And that motion is carried.
Right, we'll move on to item 12, the Lights Out Remembrance Beacon.
Yep.
The committee is requested to consider this report and decide what to do further.
The eagle eye will notice that there is no report. And to be honest with you, it would have been impossible to do one because we were having a meeting about this today. This is an ongoing matter, and actually I wouldn't know what my recommendations would have been different when I first started than it would now. We were tasked with identifying locations, suitable locations to install a permanent beacon, because we wanted to make a permanent feature in the street scene. And we initially thought about what would look good visually in terms of the beacon itself. So on the high on a hill somewhere with the silhouetted with the windmills and all that would be fantastic. But then obviously these are the problems. We've identified a number of locations, and these are the issues that we kind of came up with. Firstly, if we want to make a permanent feature in the street scene, it needs to be somewhere where people can see it, which rules out a lot of the potential locations that would look visually imposing in terms of a beacon. For example, the obvious one would be at the top of Wagtail Lane, on the ridge line there, so you can see it from miles around. And of course, the only possible location there would be in a farmer's field, and you'd never be able to put an event on there because it's pitch black in November, everywhere apart from where you've got a light in. So we then started thinking about different locations which weren't on the top of a hill. We looked at parks. Again, the problem with parks is that there is no great visual impact outside the parks because they're all enclosed by trees. And because they're all enclosed by trees, if you're looking at a solid fuel fire, you've got the issues with ash drift and all that kind of thing. And again, they're really dark. We thought about maybe behind here, on the old roads that is off the sea to sea. We thought that'd be a good visually impressive location because you'd be able to see it right across the valley. Same issue, it's very dark at night. It's also choked up with litter and it wouldn't be a very good place to put an event on. So we assessed and dismissed a load of locations. We looked at Wagtail Lane, we looked at Dew Lane Park, we looked at Anfield Plain Park, we looked at Oakley's Park. We looked at outside the Louisa Centre here on the mound, which would have been okay because it's a green space, but then there's electric cables around it, so again, you can't use that. We looked at the C2C and dismissed that. We came up with about the best outdoor location that we could think of, which is in the public realm, was the Quaking Houses green. So you go up the top of Quaking Houses behind the wheel, there's a green there, there's street light all around it, there's a bus route. That could work potentially because it's not too close to people's houses for a solid fuel burner. And then if you want it in a really accessible location, like the front street, which is kind of the obvious thing to put a permanent thing in the street scene, then you're thinking, well, we can't use solid fuel because it would be a safety risk. So then you're back to gas. Now, we've done some research in this, and like I say, we've still been having conversations about this today. You can commission the traditional brazier of the type which you would have seen on a post with a basket brazier, with or without a shield on it that's got the council's name on it and what it's commemorating. And you can commission those for, well within our price range. Maybe 1,500 to 1,700 for the brazier, maybe 15 to 2,000 for the shield, and then depending on which post you choose, between 750 and 1,500. That's going from steel to oak, for the post. So you can commission the traditional brazier. The gas ones that you can just hire in or buy in, the portable, movable ones, aren't terribly impressive looking. You can get one, the biggest one you can get is about 9 feet tall, but it's spindly and it's thin. You can get these ones that are like dishes, a bit like the sort of Olympic flame, but again, they're on tripods and they don't look terribly impressive. They're not a permanent feature in the street scene. So the solution we've been thinking of today, and this is literally today because we're having a meeting with our events provider to talk about the logistics of doing an event to be associated with this, and he threw in a few suggestions which are actually good ones, was that we could commission a full-size traditional brazier, but we could run it with gas. All you've got to do is basically install the burners inside the brazier, run a hose pipe down the back of it, get someone that's trained with a couple of gas bottles there, and you can have a big permanent one in the street scene that looks the business, but you can just ignite it with gas to deal with the health and safety issues of having it in a town centre location. And what James's idea was actually, if we got the base fabricated in such a way that we could actually locate it on the same 4 bolts that we locate the Christmas tree on, then we could have it located there on the same place, which at the moment is an empty bed, 11 months of the year, and then when the installers come to put the Christmas tree in, we can swap them over for a month and a half and then bring it back again afterwards.
And the expensive bespoke fencing that we already have around the Christmas tree can stay up all year
Just stay
round.
up all year round. So like I say, we've come up with a number of options. So my recommendation as of today is that we should commission a full-size traditional brazier to go in the front street and run it off gas. Chairman.
Any comments?
Well, nobody else is going to speak. I think it's reasonable to think of putting something like this on the front street, because there could be a few times in a year you're not going to just use it once, and not just for remembrance, but for if you have a function on, you've got a gathering point, you can put it on. You're not having to have someone in there to take the solid fuel and light it, and the dangers of setting something else on fire, and then having to wait a couple of hours for it to go out, and then somebody having to clean it up and put it back. So the principle of gas ones, I think is a good one, because it allows you to use it. You turn it on and turn it off, I think that's an excellent idea. I think it's very worth consideration, obviously you won't have any cost yet, but I think that we should look for a gas one and replace the Christmas tree. Seems sensible. I hadn't thought of that.
I didn't either. I'll give James the credit for that.
Has a fence, it has a protection, and if people want to have it on, we can always hire it out if someone wants to do a special event and have a gathering, we'll put it on for them.
That location,
So it makes
there,
it
we've got
for
the
everybody as
event
well.
space, haven't we?
Second that motion.
So I would move sure.
Mark?
Can I suggest that because of the time constraints that we've got, get you investigated as soon as possible and actually have an attachment for the full council. You can have it in as well, and that would save you having to cut and paste something else in. If we have it, so if we can have it for something for full council in a fortnight, that would be fantastic.
Costings for that proposal.
Because if we can't, we won't have time to agree it and get something in place when we are actually supposed to have.
I mean, I've got a price for the brazier. As I said, if you get steel posts, that's 750 quid. If you, the brazier is 1750, so you're better maths than me. And then the shield on the side of it, which I suggest we want because we want it to be there. It's commemorating the 100 years of the gun sport inside it. That's going to cost up to 2,000. So we're looking at 2, say 3, 4,500, and then obviously the gas burners we could just hire in as we need them.
And I preempted it and gave the county a call today to see if it's doable at the Christmas location, and they said it is doable, so they said they'd have a meeting next week pending this meeting.
So it's
Good work being done by officers, so I'm pleased with that. We're making progress.
So just bring a report back to the full council and we'll get it agreed and paid for. That sounds
Okay.
Everyone happy with that?
like what's a good movement.
Thank you.
On item 13, the committee actions update. Council has requested to consider the report, review the decision and decide if any further action is required at this time.
I'll take it. Well, I'll take it apart from the bits I'm going to get James to take. I just need to open the report because for some reason I haven't got
I haven't got a couple of wipers either.
Professionalism itself down a different.
James.
Well, here we go. So obviously, it's already been pointed out that I didn't add on the planning thing. I'm looking to convene a meeting, first meeting of that in October. I'll give you a date when I've got it. World War I Remembrance is shown as orange. Well, we've just discussed that matter, so that doesn't need to be orange anymore. Christmas lights working group, that you've just discussed that, so that doesn't need to be red anymore. Defibrillator, James will give you an update on in a minute. Road safety, we spoke to Dave Clark today and tried to get a date in the diary to discuss that with him, because we want to know, we either need to get a submission or just take the money away, don't we? So David, unfortunately Dave Clark is going on holiday for a couple of weeks, so that meeting's not going to happen until October either, but we have kind of made contact. And the Youth Council one is just parked there as outstanding, and that needs to be revisited in the medium term planning, and you want to bring that back. So James, the defib one, mate.
The reason I give you verbal updates rather than a proper full report is because it's limited what I can report, but I'm not going to send out a report with a couple of lines. Job Centre have agreed to have it there. I've got a whole raft of emails between me and the Job Centre, and I've paid visits there. The thing we're waiting on is their estates department and internal departments seem to move slower than Durham County Council's departments at times. So the situation I'm in, and the last email I had was on the 14th of August, and it said, James, apologies that this has taken so long, but I've had a call from our estates team regarding the fitting of the defibrillator to the external wall of the job centre. What happened is a few officers changed places at the job centre and moved about. I don't know if anyone knows that. They have asked you to confirm that you will still be providing the defibrillator and housing. They will fit and install electricity supply to it. I confirmed that. They said thanks for the quick response, and they're currently putting a quote together to put in the electricity supply where we've highlighted it's going to be. I've asked them on the 16th of August, please keep me informed and up to date. As soon as we get the go-ahead from their estates, we will purchase the defibrillator, put it on, offer the training to the necessary people. It's one of those projects, it will happen, it's just a waiting game. I can't do much more than what we're doing. We found the location, we found a partner that will look after it and inspect it every morning. That's the situation with the defib.
Questions from members?
Any questions on the defib or the entire plan itself? Yeah.
I think it's just a case of just keeping on like that, keeping them, reminding them that it needs to be done, kind of thing really. So we'll just keep the reminder emails going.
I just do want you to think I wasn't chasing, because that's why I thought I would print these off and show all the emails that I have.
Yeah.
It's there. So as soon as I get the go ahead, that's when I'll provide you a full report saying it's going ahead on such and such a day. These are the people we're using to install it. This is the make of defibrillator. Do you see what I mean? That's when I'll provide the report.
Yeah. Just give the gentleman a reminder.
Can I say on the report, obviously it'll show the stuff in there where it says done for this year, but some of the stuff will carry on in the next year where we do certain things. So yeah,
I think with the actions list, I think that,
keeps us focused.
I think that when we get to the next AGM, I think we drop off the done actions and just carry forward the live actions, so that we're not going to end up with this, ever increasing.
Right, nothing about the defib. Police cars and wardens' cars. I know the wardens have a van now. It's got highway maintenance on the back. When can we expect a livery van? It's not advertising us very well.
Well, this was the main reason that we were in contact with Dave Clark today, because the blockages are not at our end. We're trying to put a meeting together to find out what the hell's going on, and as soon as we can do that. Like I said, Dave Clark's not going to be around for a couple of weeks, so I'm going to go directly to the police's fleet manager and find out what's happening with it. Because from our end, we've signed it off, we've agreed that we've made an agreement, we've even paid them the money, and yet we've not delivered the van. So we are going to take that up with them, and we'll see what's happening there, because if it's not going to happen, then we'll just have a feedback, you know, at the end of the day. You know, it's as simple as that.
There was one of the reasons of one of the delays a little while back was the particular van that the police had recommended to the police to use. They apparently weren't allowed to commission that anymore, so it had to change to another type of vehicle. It's got those sort of things are out of our control again. But you know, probably.
But the answer, the short answer, Captain Tully, is I don't know either, because it was incredibly urgent that we approved it as soon as we could, because they needed the vehicles, and yet the delay is not at our end. We have made an agreement and given them the money to do it, you know. So it's just yeah.
So are we also hiring a van, the highway maintenance one, for the wardens to use?
Well, we've got to, because otherwise we won't have a water service. Yeah. You know, we had no option. Unfortunately, when you start new services, sometimes, as much as you'd like to, you can't line everything up to happen on the same day. You know, we've got the DCC service that we were in control of commissioning out, and then because we decided to commission these police vehicles through the police fleet, it's frustrating in a way, because DCC or the supply that we use for our own vehicle would have had one to us in a week. You know, it's just unfortunate. But you know, we will take it up with the police fleet management and see what's going on.
It's just the extra cost that we're paying out.
I know.
For that,
I know.
extra vehicle.
I know. It's frustrating.
Can I just say, please, the opposition's taking an interest in the wardens. They did it well, didn't want them. I appreciate the interest. We've already had some success. We've had quite good coverage on Facebook with regard to the work that they're doing, and they're out there doing everyday work, and I'm pleased we've got them and working well alongside our environmental team. Thank you.
I think Councillor Marshall's got it wrong. We didn't get rid of them. The
Right, I'm
independents
going to stop there,
get rid of
because
them.
we're just
It
going to
was
start
Bella
arguing.
who was king.
It doesn't matter. We're going to stop it there. The comments are on the item agenda, not between each other.
No, it was not.
It's not
By
part
us,
of
and
the
that's what
item
David
agenda, so
said.
we're going to leave it there.
That's absolutely
I said I'm
fine.
glad you're taking an interest.
I'm going to move on. So the date and time of the next meeting is the 17th of October,
No,
2000.
allegedly. No, we need to. Yeah, we obviously had the item on the July full council agenda, and my proposal was to move back this committee a week so that we didn't have so we had time between the two committees. And my proposal was to put it back a week so the meetings remain on the Wednesday. And I think at the meeting it was decided to move it to a Tuesday. And then what's happened is that when we've come back off of our holidays, and myself and Nicola, we kind of just could work to the old schedule of meetings when we've sent the papers out. So what we've agreed is that this meeting will go back to the 16th of October, not the 17th of October. We did reissue the schedule of meetings today. So obviously that's wrong, and we'll try and get it right next month.
But ideally, we don't want 3 weeks between the finance meeting and full council, but we want just 2 weeks between. So, and Tuesdays. We agreed, then everybody knew that the Tuesday, I'm going to the council, not just a Tuesday, is it Wednesday? And some people turn up on the wrong day.
Right. Yeah, so the one that we've issued today, we've got committee on the 16th. Hang on, she's moved the full council. The full council was on the 23rd. Why is it in my diary? I haven't decided. Right, we're going to revisit this because I think,
Second for
2 weeks between.
And get a schedule sent out.
Yes.
All agreed to.
yes, second for Tuesday.
Because we'll find out the date and time once it's been decided anyway.
Everybody wants to go to the
Thank you very much.